officers who shot and killed Thurman Blevins on June 23rd, 2018. First, we're going to hear from Rashaun Brown, who is the cousin of Thurman Blevins.
And so again, my name is Rashaun Brown, cousin of Thurman Blevins. As you guys already know, he was violently gunned down in the alley of North Minneapolis. Thurman, as we know, is June, was 31 years old. He was a father of 3. He was a brother, an uncle, a nephew, and a caring community member who also looked out for the community. Thurman's life ended because 2 Minneapolis police officers, Justin Schmidt and Ryan Kelly, did not see him as a human being. They saw Thurman as a black man that falsely perceived to be a threat to them, and they chased him down and they hunted him down like an animal. And then they claimed that they were afraid for their life. From the very beginning of the encounter, the body camera footage shows that the officers acted unprofessionally when they first approached Thurman and his family, which included his young daughter, who was in the stroller at the time. Schmidt and Ryan had a blatant disregard for Thurman's life and the life of his family, evidenced by them jumping out of their squad cars and pointing their guns at Thurman. The Minneapolis Police Department has a long history of engaging in violence towards the African American community. MPD has killed 30 people in Minneapolis since the year 2001, according to a recent Star Tribune article. My cousin Thurman is now one of those 30 people. As a result of complaints by the community that MPD is a violent police force, MPD added a sanctity of life policy, but those words do not seem to mean anything. Now, under section 5-301, purpose, 10-16/02, 8-17-07, 07-28-16, sanctity of life and the protection of the public shall be the cornerstones of the MPD's use of force policy. Officers Schmidt and Kelly violated the sanctity of life policy when they used deadly force against Thurman Blevins. They did not attempt to de-escalate the situation. They did not ask Thurman Blevins any questions. They immediately pulled their guns on him and cursed him, causing him to run in fear for his safety. Both Schmidt and Kelly were the aggressors in the situation, not Thurman. So he tried to run away from those 2 officers, and he was shot in the back when he did do so. This was wrong, and Thurman's life did matter. Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freedman made a mistake and refused to prosecute Schmidt and Kelly. Now, obviously, we disagree with the decision that he made. Those officers need to be behind bars for what they did. Chief Arredondo and Mayor Jacob Fry have the power to take action in this situation. Our family is calling upon the chief and the mayor to immediately fire Justin Schmidt and Ryan Kelly because they violated the policies of the Minneapolis Police Department. One, their use of deadly force against Thurman Blevins was unreasonable under the circumstances. They also aggressively approached Thurman Blevins when they arrived to the scene, and they were flat out unprofessional on their way to the scene. They issued death threats and used profanity against Thurman Blevins, calling him names like, I'm not sure if I can say it, they called him a motherfucker, and saying that they would shoot him. Now, they have a combined total of 13 previous complaints that were filed against them by the civilians and the supervisors. Both Mayor Jacob Fry and Chief Arredondo have the power to fire both of these 2 officers immediately. It is unsafe to have them to continue to patrol our streets. Their presence contributes to a violent shoot first and ask questions later culture within MPD.
That's right.
That violent culture and the actions of those 2 officers took the life of my cousin. He mattered.
That's right. Thank you, Rashaun, for those heartfelt words on behalf of your cousin. We reiterate some of the things that Rashaun just said about the violent history and culture of MPD, as well as the history of the 2 officers, Schmidt and Kelly, who shot and killed Thurman Blevins. Now, we looked at a recent Star Tribune article that talked about the fact that police have killed someone in Minneapolis all but 3 of the past 18 years, with 2007, 2011, and 2014 being the exceptions. Of the 30 people killed by officers since 2000 in Minneapolis, only 10 were carrying firearms. So 2/3 of the people who were shot and killed by the Minneapolis Police Department did not have a gun, and yet they were still shot and killed. 63% of those killed in Minneapolis were Black. That's 19 individuals, while only 17%, or 5 people, were white. But the city is 60% white and 19% Black. And so Black people are overrepresented amongst the individuals who are shot and killed by the Minneapolis Police Department, and we find this to be unacceptable. Deaths in Minneapolis alone, at the hands of the Minneapolis Police Department, accounted for 18% of all deadly police encounters in Minnesota since the year 2000. We consider the Minneapolis Police Department to be a deadly, violent police department, and the actions of the 2 officers in question are a part of a culture that needs to change. We feel that Chief Arredondo and Mayor Jacob Fry have the power to help shift that culture by firing those 2 officers. Now, if we look at the history of Officer Justin Schmidt and Officer Ryan Kelly, we see some concerning patterns. First of all, the 2 officers claim that they were in fear for their safety. But if you look at the background of Justin Schmidt, he's a security forces instructor with the U.S. Air Force. He's an instructor with Archway Defense, an organization that provides fear-based training to police officers. Schmidt has had 5 complaints against him since he was hired in 2014. 2 of these are internal complaints filed by a supervisor or another officer, and 3 are complaints from community members. 1 internal complaint is still open, and Schmidt is one of 8 officers involved in that case. Now, if we look at the background of Ryan Kelly, Ryan Kelly is an EMS instructor with the Hennepin County Medical Center and has been since 2011. He's had 140 hours of SWAT training. He has had 8 complaints filed against him. All the complaints have been closed with no discipline. The fact that there has been no discipline does not suggest that Ryan Kelly has not been guilty of misconduct and abuse towards people in the city of Minneapolis, but it suggests that the Minneapolis Police Department has taken a lackluster approach when it comes to holding officers accountable for their abusive and violent conduct. Had Officer Kelly been disciplined in the past, it is very possible that Thurman Blevins would still be alive today. If we look at the combination of the background and the training of the officers, we see that these are highly skilled individuals who had no reason to fear for their safety when they encountered Thurman Blevins. We also see these officers as having a history of abusive conduct towards residents of Minneapolis, given the 13 complaints that have been filed against them. On those bases, we are urgently requesting that Chief Madera Arredondo exercise his executive authority and that Mayor Jacob Fry exercise his authority as being over the police department to fire those 2 officers. We are tired of the things that have been happening within our community, within FPD. We're ready for a paradigm shift and a cultural shift, and it can begin with the firing of these 2 violent officers who shot and killed Thurman Blevins. Thank you. Next, we're going to have Freedman come up and talk about the 30 people who have been shot and killed by FPD since 2000.
Again, my name is Freedman. As Rashaun has stated and as Nekima has stated, we have had 1 person killed, a Minneapolis resident killed by Minneapolis PD every year for the last 18 years. Those are lives that have been lost, fathers, brothers, who have been killed by the same people who are sworn to protect them. Since 2000, we have lost Sean Hayes, Alfred Saunders, Barbara Schneider, Abdullah Simmons Muhammad, Ephraim Pampa de Paz, Demetrius Sessler, Christopher Burns, Martha Donald, Abu Jelani, Walter Collins, Anthony Williams, Eric Netters, Courtney Williams, Lorenzo Doby, Raymond Sigler, Ricky Redden, Benjamin DeCatru, Fong Lee, Wayne Reyes, Dominic Felder, Tommy Baker, Quincy Smith, Ahmad Gulad, David Smith, Delshawn Crawford, Terrence Jackson, Jamar Clark, Raul Marquez Heraldez, Justine Demond, and Thurman Blevins. Those are 30 people who have lost their life to the Minneapolis Police Department. It is a culture that needs to change and an ideology that needs to be corrected. This family has lost a loved one to Justin Schmidt and Ryan Kelly. I reiterate the call that the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry, and the police chief of Minneapolis fire Justin Schmidt and Ryan Kelly. Thank you.
The source of the data that Andre just shared with you came from the Star Tribune. The source of the data that I shared with you on the backgrounds of Ryan Kelly and Officer Schmidt was provided by Communities United Against Police Brutality. Next, we're going to hear from Chauntyll Allen, who is the head of Black Lives Matter Twin Cities.
How you doing? I'm just here to stand in solidarity with the family because we're tired. You know, just like he just named off those 30 names, that was a long list. It took a long time for him to even get through the list. We're tired of coming back every single time and getting the same lip service and only moving just a little bit to the side and not really forward. We're ready to put a little bit more pressure on, and we're going to start looking at some of these economic entities that support the Minneapolis, and we're going to start calling for some boycotts. We're going to start calling for people to stop utilizing downtown, during the holiday days. We're going to put some real pressure on the city of Minneapolis and specifically on the mayor and the chief. If they're not going to prosecute the police officers for chasing us down or murdering us in the streets, the people will stand up. My name is Chauntyll Allen. I'm with Black Lives Matter Twin Cities, and I'm here to say that Thurman Blevins' life matters. We will be back. We will continue. You will continue to see our face. We will continue to put pressure on you until these officers are off of our streets. I'm scared for our youth right now. I'm scared for them that are hanging out at our rec centers and walking to our corner stores right now, because at any moment, police officers could jump out of their cars and chase them down in the streets. This could be a really long weekend. We're tired. We want to feel safety in our communities. We want to feel safety in our city. We deserve that as taxpayers. Thank you.
Are there any questions at this time?
Has there been any contact between the mayor and the family since the tapes have been released, or anything regarding the firing of these two officers?
There's been no contact with the mayor since. There hasn't been any contact with the mayor since.
What about the police chief?
No contact. I've met the chief of the police department once. He hasn't reached out since.
Okay.
What was that meeting like with the police chief?
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
What was that meeting like with the police chief? What was there? What was talked about?
The chief, he just explained how he also wants change. He's only one man. He gave his condolences to the family. That's really what it was. That was probably a week after Thurman's passing. So it was pretty big.
We want action. Condolences are good, but we really want some action. If he really feels that way, then he'll step up and create a safe streets in our city. We want action. Fire the police officers.
And we know that this is not the first time in which a request has been made for an officer who shot and killed someone to be fired. Officer Muhammad Noor, who shot and killed Justine Damon, was fired from the Minneapolis Police Department. So in this instance, we are also demanding that the 2 officers be fired. It should not have to be the case that if a white woman from a wealthy environment is shot and killed in the city, that's the only way to get justice. The officers engaged in enough inappropriate conduct towards Mr. Blevins, using expletives towards him, jumping out of the car, pointing their guns at him, being unprofessional on the way to the scene, asking random people if they saw a drunk black guy, and speaking about someone who spoke Spanish. It's just completely unprofessional and inappropriate. On those bases alone, those 2 officers should be fired, coupled with their 13 complaints that have been lodged against them. If the chief is serious about a paradigm shift within the culture of the Minneapolis Police Department, he can demonstrate that now by sending a signal to those 2 officers and all other officers who are part of the department that violent behavior will not be tolerated, that abusive behavior and abusive language on the part of officers will not be tolerated, and that the city of Minneapolis will actually protect and preserve the sanctity of the lives of the residents and not continue to shoot first and ask questions later in our community. Are there any other questions?
Besides Noor being fired, that whole list of 30 names, have any other officers ever lost their job and fired?
We are not aware of whether any other officers who have shot and killed someone from the Minneapolis Police Department have been fired. We know that in recent years, those officers seem to have kept their jobs. They have also not been prosecuted, and that is a part of why we have the violent culture within MPD that we currently have, because there hasn't been any real accountability, and most of the officers who have a pattern of misconduct are not being disciplined at an appropriate rate, which sends the signal that it is okay to engage in this type of conduct on the streets.
Yeah, so my thing is, with an apology, it's more than just words. An apology is changed behavior. These officers get to do anything they want as far as violence because of one statement: I fear for my life. And that needs to change. Because you fear for your life, you need to stop it. You're telling me that your life does not matter. If you fear for your life, you need to be able to go home and you need to call off whatever it is that's going on, and you need to stop. That one statement has to change. I don't get to go out there and kill anyone because I fear for my life. Honestly, if anyone has the right to fear for their life, it is black people. And I hate to say that.
That's right.
We have been slaves. We've been raped, drugged, kidnapped. And I hate to keep saying that and bring that back. But it's the media and it's everyone else that keeps bringing this race car from generation to generation. And it needs to stop. We're all humans. We can all love one another. But some insist we still continue to have hatred. Does my skin really affect you that much? Is it because I'm black you hate me? You don't even know me as a person, but you're already judging me. And that's what I feel that happened to Thurman Blevins. He was already judged. You already had your character of who he was because of his skin.
That's right.
Thurman Blevins did nothing wrong when they approached him, regardless of whatever happened before they got there. The moment they approached him, he was calm and collected. Had they approached the situation differently, hey, Thurman Blevins may still be here. I'd rather call him from a prison cell versus visiting his gravesite now.
That's right.
But I have no choice no more. That statement needs to change.
That's right. So Rashaun, to stay up here. So one of the things that Rashaun is referring to when he talks about the statement, I fear for my life needing to change, he's talking about the ways in which officers and those who work within the system are able to manipulate Minnesota's deadly force statute that, first of all, is too vague and gives officers too much discretion to use deadly force, and unfortunately, sometimes in unwarranted circumstances, like we have in the case at hand. How can officers claim that they fear for their safety when, number one, they are highly trained, highly skilled individuals? They did not ask any questions. Right away, they escalated the situation, and they were the aggressors. And instead of Thurman Blevins confronting them in a violent manner, what did he do? He ran. He tried to get out of harm's way. He tried to get away from the officers, even as they continuously pointed guns at him. It's completely unacceptable that officers can be the aggressors and then turn around and claim that they were fearful. This is a misuse and a misapplication of a law that is already too vague and allows too much discretion for police officers to get away with murder. We saw the same thing happen in the case of Jamar Clark, where he was shot and killed in November of 2015 at the hands of the Minneapolis Police Department. Again, they were the aggressors. They violently approached Jamar Clark from behind. They slammed him to the ground. Jamar Clark was unarmed, and within 61 seconds, those officers shot him in the head at point-blank range, and they got away with it. Thanks to the Hennepin County Attorney's refusal to prosecute them and the Minneapolis Police Department's refusal to release them from the force. We do not want officers like the two who killed Jamar Clark and the two who killed Thurman Blevins roaming the streets of North Minneapolis. People are already vulnerable. People are already afraid of the police, and they don't feel safe calling 911, knowing that it's possible that we will encounter violent officers. The chief and the mayor should not want officers who engage in violence to remain on the force. So we're asking them to do the right thing for a young black man in this situation, which will benefit all of the residents of the city of Minneapolis. We're also asking allies to step up and help to champion the need to change Minnesota's deadly force statute, which again offers way too much discretion for officers to use deadly force and to take the lives of people. This concludes our press conference at this time. We want to thank you all for being here and for tuning in, and we would ask the public to stand in solidarity with the family of Thurman Blevins and seeking some semblance of justice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.